The Queen lies in the state, but will Canadians get a holiday to mourn the Queen? And Skippy is now in charge of the Conservative Party. This is the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home. I'm in love.
Alright, so for those living under the rocks, Queen Elizabeth II died last week. And her death is sent a nation and part of the Commonwealth in mourning. I've watched some of the coverage, and I do admit to getting a little misty-eyed because it is the end of an era. And the Queen was a pretty decent person. And I've also read comments from all those jealous detractors out there who whine and moan about racism and that, and this and that. They don't even come close to being what Queen Elizabeth was. So the question is, do Canadians get a holiday to mourn the Queen? I know I don't. Simply because where I work, we're on a mini shutdown anyway to retool. So it doesn't affect me that way, so I will get the day off. So this Monday coming up is going to be a holiday for federal employees. Most workplaces are regulated by the provinces. So Newfoundland and Labrador, they declared Monday a one-off provincial holiday. So which means government offices and schools will be closed. Businesses and organizations will not be required to close or treat the day as a paid holiday. So it's up to them. It's up to your discretion. Nova Scotia will recognize Monday as a provincial holiday. Again, government offices and schools will be closed, but healthcare services will continue. Which makes sense. You don't close healthcare services for this kind of stuff. New Brunswick, temporary provincial holiday to mark the Queen's funeral. Government offices and schools will be closed. Prince Edward Island will treat it as a statutory holiday, but for all provincially regulated workers, the government announced. So government offices and schools. So it's a bank holiday. Quebec, they'll have a day of commemoration, but won't have a public holiday. Ontario will not have a statutory holiday, but will mark the day as a day of mourning. It goes on to say that it allows students at school to learn about the many contributions the Queen has made to the people of Ontario and to the world in general. She was a very remarkable lady. Moment of silence. Manitoba won't have a statutory holiday, instead have a day of mourning. Non-essential government offices will be closed, schools will remain open, but classes are being encouraged to observe a moment of silence. Saskatchewan, again, no statutory holiday to mark the Queen's funeral, day of tribute and commemoration. Alberta has declared a provincial day of mourning to mark the Queen's funeral, but it won't have an official holiday. BC will recognize the federal holiday and give government employees the day off. Private sector employees are encouraged to mark the day in the way that is appropriate to their employees. All schools in the province will be closed. Northwest Territories, school will be in session, office will be closed. It continues normal for most employees. The Yukon says it will observe a one-day holiday for public sector employees on Monday. Schools and government offices will be closed. So it seems pretty consistent across the board. Most government offices will be closed. I know Doug Ford in Ontario said that it would cost the economy billions of dollars if we shut down for the day. But what's the point? We've already shut down over a pandemic for a couple of months, so I don't see what the big deal is there. It's amazing that 50 years ago, this would have been a mandatory holiday. That's how much we've changed as a country and shifted from our traditional roots to what we are today. But should we get a day off for the Queen Elizabeth birthday? It should be a government holiday, yes. Government offices should all be closed. There should be a moment of silence and commemorations pretty much around the country, and we should show our signs of respect. Personally, myself, I prefer November 11th to be a national holiday, like it used to be, and that only essential services be open. But that has changed since I was in school. Over the last 40 years, that day has gone away, which kind of sucks. It definitely is the end of an era, and we'll see what the next era brings. So when Monday comes, I'll observe my moment of silence for the Queen and also watch some of the stuff on TV. I found it really interesting because how often do you get to see that? And the British, they know how to do it. All right, next. Skippy is now in charge of the Conservative Party of Canada. Pierre Poilivievre, he won the Conservative leadership last weekend, and that's well known. I myself put my vote for that guy for the Conservative leadership. I think he's the one who can beat Trudeau, if anyone can, because Scheer was the goofy uncle and O'Toole was the grumpy uncle. But Poilievre, he is a well-known firebrand and definitely takes Trudeau and his government to task over a lot of things. All you have to do is watch his comments on YouTube, and he's gold. He's definitely a fighter, and he's a populist. But he's been in politics since he was 24 years old when he won his first election. and he's been around ever since. His nickname in his area is Skippy, from Family Ties. So Poilivievre says he'll fight for the working class in his first caucus speech because Canadians are hurting. The problem is the cost of government is driving up the cost of living. Right, the Liberal government is spending exorbitant amounts of money on a lot of useless things. I understand that during the pandemic they had to. When everything was shut down, we had to spend money. But since everything's back to normal, we don't need to be wasting money on all these little social programs. Now his job, he says, is to holding the government to account for its perceived failings on the economy and inflation. Hey, inflation's gone up so much over the last 6 months, it ain't funny. The price of gas went up to almost $2 a litre. If Doug Ford in Ontario hadn't dropped the provincial taxes on gas, it would have went over $2 and helped drop the price of fuel. Now fuel is kind of stabilized. It's still higher than it was 4 years ago, but it will be increasing soon because the carbon tax is going to go up come January. Also remember that your EI benefits and Canadian pension plan benefits, what you pay for that is going to go up on your paycheck come January 1st. Thank you, Liberal government. So Poilivievre, called on Trudeau to stop increases to the payroll taxes like the employment insurance and contributions to the CPP, Canadian pension plan. So that means I gotta work more hours for less come next year. He called out the government for recklessly pushing through sizable hikes to the federal carbon tax. The levy on fuels will increase from $50 to $170 by 2030 when people are already suffering. So who does that fall upon? That fall upon the working class who has to get up and drive to work. Poilivievre is going to challenge Trudeau to commit there will be no new taxes increases on workers, on seniors, none. That he will fight tooth and nail to stop the Prime Minister and his radical woke coalition with the NDP from introducing new taxes. Because taxes are going up. He gets under Trudeau's skin, and he definitely knows how to attack Trudeau and the NDP on policy issues. I don't like Poilivievre's support for Bitcoin, for digital currencies. I'm not a big fan of that. I prefer hard currency to digital. I understand the speed of transactions, but again, when banks can freeze your account in a day where we have pretty much we're a cashless society in a lot of ways, and banks can all of a sudden freeze your account, that's not good. Poilivievre did support the Freedom Convoy. My support for the Freedom Convoy was a little bit mixed. Mostly I supported them, but for a few nuts I didn't support. And I thought the government handled that one very badly. Poilivievre promised that if elected, Prime Minister he'll introduce legislation to force the federal government to offset every dollar of new spending with a cut into something else. A program he's calling pay-as-you-go approach to budgeting. I don't mind that, because there are lots of places we can cut money from. Foreign aid is one of the top of the list. We've added nearly $500 billion added to the federal debt in recent years during a global health crisis. The government should find a way to save $1 for any new dollar spent. That's the proposal we're going to make. So he wants to do small government, big business, and where the state is the servant and the people are the masters. I agree. I'm more like Jefferson. He who governs best governs least. And I'm not a big fan of big government interfering in every little thing that goes on. So we'll see how he does in the next election. He'll continue to hammer at Trudeau and the Liberals right up until the next election. It'll be interesting to see if Trudeau even sticks around that long. He says he is. But I personally see Trudeau stepping down before the next election and Chrystia Freeland stepping in his shoes. She's being groomed to be the next Prime Minister or the next leader of the Liberal Party. So it remains to be seen what will happen. All you Canadians out there, let me know what you think of the Queen's passing, and should it have been a national holiday or just a day of mourning? And what are your thoughts on Skippy? Let me know in the comments section. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, it's been the Great White Northern.
I'm in love.